We hear headline after headline about migrants taking our jobs, and all along we've overlooked the real threat to our jobs and industries: robots. The Governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, said this week that robots will put 15 million Brits out of work in the coming years. That's almost half of the current working population. He predicts entire careers will be wiped out as computing gets more advanced and more jobs are automated. I could not agree with him more. We are on the cusp of a national crisis and we are burying our heads in the sand. I love technology and disruptive business, but beware, the fourth industrial revolution is upon us and it will brutally destroy jobs, livelihoods and economies in its wake if we are not prepared. The future is happening around us and we must rise to the challenge to meet it and seek opportunity in this change. If you ignore it, you will do so at your peril.
I have to say this slowly so I know it's true. I agree with you, Michelle.
Whoa, take a lie down.
I completely agree with you. I also agree, that we are getting distracted because this is actually an existential crisis that's facing us. And the thing that I think really worries me, I actually interviewed a minister from the Department for Business Innovation and Skills about this last year. I asked, what is your strategy for equipping the labour force to cope with automation? And he looked at me completely blankly. I mean, genuinely, there is none. There's a strategy for promoting driverless car technology because they think that's good for the economy. There's a strategy for teaching 5-year-olds how to code, which is great. But when you talk about actually fundamentally reskilling the economy so that people will have jobs, they're not doing anything, and it's to me, that is a massive betrayal of voters' trust because these are long-term issues that we're not voting for in every election, but we're assuming that the people that run the country have this in hand. But my question for you, Michelle, is because some of the experts I've spoken to about this say, well, they foresee a future where there'll be more leisure. There'll be more leisure time. A lot of the jobs that humans do will not be done by humans. And the question that always makes me ask is, well, what will people live on? So given that we don't have a particularly equal redistribution of wealth in society at the moment, would you favour something that would see everybody get an income, even if they are spending
You're
their time in
referring
leisure?
to something called the Universal Basic Income, and I think it was Switzerland that did a referendum fairly recently on that, and lots of people dressed up as robots and was really kind of anti-automation. But that, the basic income got rejected, and I've always dismissed it. So basic income, basically what it means is every single citizen will get paid. Will get some money, the same.
Apart from the disabled who might get a little bit more.
No, every single person will get paid the same.
This
It would basically get rid of the welfare state, if you would. You can still work, and anything that you would earn would be over and above that, but everyone would get the same. I've always dismissed that as a bit of a ridiculous idea, but the more I've thought about it, the more I start to think, what will humans actually do? What will they work as? Like, Nick, you're looking at me as if I'm stark raving bonkers mad.
I'm wondering, much as Greg challenged me about the representation in certain wards, what is to be done then? What should the government, in practical terms, explain to the viewers what the government should be doing? 'Cause how are we going to reskill these folk?
Well, first of all, I think we need to understand the size of the threat. So if you will indulge me, I have some examples of where robots are coming and where they're actually kind of in practice at the moment. So if I start with Amazon, for example, they're using drones already to deliver parcels.
Please don't tell me you think that's a good idea.
Well, I do, actually. I do.
Great for traffic reduction.
We are that close from an airplane being brought down by a bloody drone.
Yeah, but bear with me, because I've got lots more examples. So ultimately, delivery drivers, what, if we've got drones delivering stuff, will we still need them? Taxis, driverless taxis in Singapore can be hailed by your smartphone. You've got this creature, Nadine, she's called. She meets and greets people in universities in Singapore. You've got Da Vinci, which is a surgical system that's already doing keyhole surgery. We've got a robot chef. There's a company that's already developing these robots to do the cooking. You've got robot bars, so you can actually be mixing drinks. This is happening right now on cruise ships. You've got this robot, which is called the Swagbot, and it's basically herding cattle and sheep. And then finally, you've got the sex robot. Feast your eyes on that. I don't know whose job that's going to take, but nonetheless, that industry is booming. So my point is, we cannot underestimate what's going to happen. And to your question, what can we do about this? point number one, acknowledge that this is upon us. That is the key thing, because until people actually truly see this for what it is, which is, to me, it's the fourth industrial revolution, it will be huge. Point one, accept it. Point two, we need to start rethinking, what does the world of work look like? We need to be thinking about education. What does education look like? Join businesses up, start-ups, entrepreneurs.
But isn't the problem... I mean, I quite like the idea of the universal basic income because I don't think everyone will have jobs. But the problem is, over the years, we've stigmatised people who don't work. We've actually said, look, you're not contributing to society. There's, I mean, in the poorer communities, deep hostility towards people who don't work until you get to things like Benefit Street and Hull Street.
But that's because of the value we place on work.
It is. So in the future, how do you change that basic value system and says, actually, we don't need all these people, but everybody's got to live, everybody's got to have some money, everyone's got to have a
It's a class thing as well, because, you know, the first jobs to get automated have been in manufacturing.
Yes.
But in the future, it's going to be lawyers, accountants, service industry, you know, so...
I shan't be crying for the lawyers.
I had a feeling you would say that.
I'm sure
there are estate agent
I think many people think my column is written by a robot, but could you replace...
People think it would be better.
Much better, robot.
Yeah.
But could we be... Listen, I mean, there are 64,000 journalists. I don't know how many TV presenters. Obviously, they couldn't replace us on the pledge with robots.
No. Well,
but I think I think it's rather exciting.
Well,
I quite like the idea that you don't have.
Look, and I just bring you back.
No, wait.
It would be hard to automate, Nick. To be fair, it would be hard to create.
Your view, which was that the politicians of today should be considering this. And actually, politicians live on terribly short-term horizons. Someone in government, but it won't be the politician. Someone in the structure of government will be looking at this, but it won't be the politician, because the politician lives for 5 years.
You all talk all the time, Afua and Greg, as if we don't live in a market economy where companies have to look forward, not government, to work out what children as yet unborn are going to be doing.
Do you know what they're doing already when they realise that our school leavers don't have the skills they need? They recruit from abroad, and that's why we have more immigration. You know, if we don't have government policy making sure that children in our schools are getting the right skills, we will continue to have to recruit those skills from abroad. And what will that mean
for people
training leaving school here?
To make sure that
they'll do what's cheaper in a market economy.
With the latest
They'll
technology.
do whatever is cheaper in a market economy.
Before you all sign up to this mad robot world, I have to tell you about 3 restaurants in a southern Chinese city who've been forced to fire all of their robot staff after their incompetence began costing them money. We can see a picture of them now. 2 of the restaurants have now closed completely, so all of the people have lost their jobs after discovering waiters could not perform simple tasks like taking orders, pouring drinks and carrying soup. I think I've been to that restaurant. But it's difficult to see how, if you look at the cruise ship example that you gave, or even the thing herding sheep, unless, obviously we're going to have engineers, I get that, so that men and women can fix them. What else? How else are we going to skill up for it? What are we going to do? I just don't say, you see, we've got to skill up. We need to skill up.
The great thing is that robots don't need wages. So we are all going to sit on our arses watching daytime telly while we invest all the money in robots. So we have full-time leisure, which I think is a disaster, by the way, especially as we are now being told by the health, whatever it is, that we should all work into our 80s. What are we actually going to be doing?
If only you were a robot, I could flick the off button and